Hey everybody, welcome back to the Creating with Impact podcast. Today I have another interview episode for you guys with Radha Windham. She is a local bassist and musician and just super awesome person, and she also runs Radha's School of Music, which is an inspiring space for students and musicians to learn, grow, and create together. They offer a wide variety of opportunities for children and adults, and they offer private instrument lessons for students of all ages, performance programs and training, band programs, summer camps, workshops, production training, audio and visual recordings, recording sessions, and much more. So their goal is to help the community as much as possible in finding their passion and outlet. So you can see why I chose her to be on this podcast. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. Are you searching for a natural way to find peace, focus, and balance in your busy life? Look no further than Monk Personal Essential Oil Diffusers. Whether you need to unwind after a long day, boost your energy, or simply find a moment of calm amidst the chaos, Monk has the perfect blend for you. Say goodbye to stress and embrace a more mindful approach to life. And as an added bonus, you can use code CreatingWithImpact for 10% off. Your journey to a happier and healthier you starts now.
So I started playing music at the age of 3. I had 2 older siblings, and they were taking piano lessons. We were taking piano lessons from a classical teacher, and I was really jealous, and I begged my mom, and she was at first like, no, you're too young, and the teacher said I was too young too. Aww. And I don't remember this, but, you know, they gave me some test where it's like if you could count to 3 or count how many keys or whatever, then the teacher would take me on, and I totally did it. Nice.
Nailed it.
Yeah. And, so ever since then, I've just, like, been chasing music and whatever it gives me. But back then, I didn't really, like, it was all classical, so not a lot of improv or, you know, theory, but no, I was never really taught how to apply it or create using the tools that I have. So that kind of kicked in later. So I'm super grateful for all the experiences with that. Growing up, I was homeschooled, so we had a lot of freedom. And, you know, there's always pros and cons to that. But I think that it gave me the independence to learn at my own pace, you know, and like sometimes I wouldn't do school for a few months because I was busy with activities, and then I would just catch up. Mm-hmm. And so it really like gave me the motivation and kind of put, I guess, how do you put this? You know, if you want to finish school, it's up to you, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like you can either not do it or you could do it, versus going to a school is like, you have to do this. Mm-hmm. So I did so many activities. I did taekwondo, I did lots of different music classes, ballet, tap, jazz, like as much creativity as possible. So I was just really drawn to that. And in my family all plays music, but it's not really the traditional, or I guess it's not the normal way people play music. I grew up in a more like Hindu family, so we did what's called meditation, but using mantra and chanting and music. So basically you can take any, you know, music tune like Hotel California, and you can kind of put the Sanskrit mantras to it. So every single day, every morning and every night for a good hour each, we would be playing music, but it wasn't the normal kind of music that you would normally hear. So I was playing guitar. I don't even remember not playing guitar, and I was never taught it because it was just a normal thing in my family. But it was all just like strumming and things like that. And then as I got older, I kind of stopped music because I felt like it was too rigid, and I didn't feel like I was getting what I wanted out of it. So I just quit, and I moved to the Philippines, actually, for a couple years. There were some family friends, and there was like a small pot of people over there who are like-minded in the meditation community. Nice. And got a lot more music experience there. And when I came back at age 15, I decided to go full force into music again. And I found some incredible teachers that completely changed my view of music. So I went from thinking that I had to play what was on the paper and you can't do anything else, and no, that says forte, you have to play it loud. And I'm like, well, I want to play it soft. Like, I feel like that part of the music should be soft. Yeah. To all of a sudden, like, having my mind opened up into just playing with feeling and from your heart, and applying your theory to do whatever you want, and then also throwing it out the window when you need to. So
And I feel like that's such a huge part of like the creative process too. And I mean, you could like, just for like a simple example, something like like if a band is playing a cover tune and they put kind of their own selves kind of into it. Yeah. I always think that's like way cooler than if they just do it like exactly how it's like supposed to be played, because you can kind of hear like a little bit of everybody in it.
Yeah. And really, at the end of the day, anybody can play something note for note the same as the recording. I mean, I know it is actually difficult, but anybody can do it. And I tell my students, too, like, when I hear a cover band, I don't actually really pay attention if it sounds the same, because I think it's just the recording, which is great. Like, that's awesome for that band. But the moment the vocal melody changes, I go, what's that? Let me follow that. And I chase that. So, yeah, I mean, we all should be our own individual selves, right? Exactly. And not try to be someone else. You learn other people's music to what? Create more of your own, right?
Exactly.
So that's my whole thought on that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then when I was 16, I wanted to get a job. And as one does.
As one does.
And I, I was in a couple bands actually at that point. I had put myself out on Craigslist at the time, I guess was safer, or I don't know. I was 16, so. But I found some cool people. Like, I ended up playing drums in a like 60s through 80s cover band.
Nice.
With a bunch of like 40-year-old dudes.
Nice.
Awesome. And I remember when I auditioned for that, I was only a year into playing drums at the time. And I remember they told me that I got the position or whatever because I was a pocket drummer and I didn't try to do anything fancy and I just did my job. And I was like, yes. Because I couldn't do anything fancy, like genuinely at that point. And even still now, like I consider myself a solid musician, but I can't shred.
Yeah.
Right?
I get that.
So, I know that there's more value in being a solid musician. So hopefully I can do both one day. So yeah, I was in a couple bands. I played guitar and keys in another band, and then I joined an original band. And then I wanted to get a job. I wanted to move out and have my own life, and I really did not want to do anything that sucked my soul because I just saw it everywhere in the world. I mean, I saw like unhealthy marriages. I saw unhealthy jobs and people, and it was immediate. Like, I don't know if I thought about it, but it was very much like something I did not want for me. So I decided to do the one thing I was good at, and I loved kids, and kids loved me. Nice. So I put myself on Craigslist, and I found my first student, Liz, and I taught her until she graduated high school, which was last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
She is like probably one of my best friends now, which is
that's
so
awesome.
Sweet. And she was 8, I was 16 at the time.
Oh.
So it's very sweet. And so I started teaching, and that first lesson I remember falling in love with teaching because she got so excited about music. And that was the day I was like, oh my God, I can give someone something that makes them so excited and they can't stop doing it. And the dad would text me like, she's practicing every day. And I'm like, what?
Awesome.
Right? And I know that it wasn't me. Like, yes, I'm the facilitator, but that was the moment I realized that there is something powerful that I'm supposed to do that is flowing through me. And I'm just, again, the facilitator. So when people are like, Radha, thank you so much, it's like, okay, yes, of course. Like, I appreciate your thank yous. But I'm just glad that I found that so early. And that's what I really hope everyone does. Like, I think that everyone should fight for that and that kind of job.
That's so awesome. So, and this might be a difficult question, but what do you see that like music gives people? Either from like your own personal experience, like what has music given you? And then like what do you see like in other people too when they like learn?
That's a good question. Well, for me, I mean, I think it brings healing to everybody. Like, that's number one. I don't care if you agree with that or not. I think that music heals, and it's just really like a pure form of art, right? But I think it brings people, I mean, community would be second, like if there's anything I realized in the last couple of years is we really need each other, and we try to do things on our own and we're like, no, I can do it. At least for myself, I'm always like proving to myself for some reason that I can do things by myself, right? And that's healthy for a while. But no, I think that we all really need each other. And with music, it's like, I think it's like one of the deepest form of language because I mean, it's magical. And I know these moments where you're playing and then someone plays and you're just like, whoa, what? And then you get so locked in, you start playing the same thing and you're just like, well, I don't even know what's going on here. So I mean, what I see in my students is just like relief, you know, and like release, relief and release. And I know I'm not just talking about kids. Like we have a ton of adult students and teenagers here, and it's really the same thing where when they come in here, or I'm sure when they play music out, it's not just here, it's like oh, thank God, it's like a sanctuary. It's like a space where they can fully explore and express themselves with no one telling them that they're wrong, right? And that's what we have to be careful with in lessons is like, no, that wasn't the wrong note. I mean, it was a little bit weird. Yeah. But I loved it, you know? And then also like, no, but that was the wrong note if you were trying to be in this key. Exactly. So it's like, it's a weird balance to teach. But I don't know, just like what keeps me going is what music does for people. And it's, I mean, we're sitting here because of music, right?
Very true.
So, yeah, like I would not be okay without it, you know? And I mean, music might not be for everybody, but I want people to find the thing that does give them that healing. And they have to explore everything. And if you don't have that, like, that's scary. And that's where mental illness comes in and, like, all sorts of crazy things. Physical illness, too. Like, just things we probably don't even realize that are coming out of just the inability to release whatever you need to release.
It's like kind of amazing to me. Like I realized so much in the recent years, especially during 2020 and that whole thing that I still can't really believe happened, but
it's a dream.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, was that like just not
that
real?
Was a story.
Yeah.
A really bad book.
Exactly. But it's like, it's so, interesting to see like how much like your mental health can just affect your like physical health, because it's like, I don't know, that whole time like during 2020 I ended up like getting laid off like from my job, and it was just like a whole like downward spiral. And I realized that like when I was feeling like more, I guess, depressed, but I feel like my immune system was also just like depressed that whole time. And of course I'm not a doctor, so I have no idea, but I feel like that actually happens. Yeah. And like you start just like feeling just achy and like tired, and you're just like, so difficult.
I think a majority of people, when they get to that point, they actually start eating worse too.
Exactly, because you're trying to like comfort yourself. Like you're like, okay, like if I have like this big bowl of like chicken fettuccine alfredo, mac and cheese, like all of those. Oh, okay, now I'm getting hungry. But it ends up just kind of being like this spiral. And I feel like also that's kind of where, at least for me, like things like music or like yoga or things like that can like come in and kind of like stop that spiral and kind of give you somewhere to like land, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But so talk a little bit about kind of how you started to like build your community, because I know we like mentioned that music can kind of like give you that community. And for like people who might not know, like how would you go about like building community around like a business idea or like a band or things like that? Like how do you kind of do that?
Well, I mean, I guess, should I say how I did that?
Yeah, probably.
Because I guess I mean, there's always more ways we could do it, you know, and we're still coming up with all sorts of ways, like on a daily basis. Like I always have ideas of, oh, this would be a cool thing that would help this specific target of maybe like moms that are stuck at home and they can't meet people, or you know, like there's always people that I think of that might need some extra help to connect. But yeah, when I mean, starting, it's a little bit tricky sometimes when you're starting a business that is a business, right? And like, but at the same time, you're doing something that fulfills your soul and that's giving to people, and it's just like, it doesn't feel like that, right? So when you involve money into that, it is a little bit tricky for me, at least in the beginning, you know? But once you get the flow of it and people respect each other, it's honestly also very easy. It's both. But yeah, I mean, when I started the school, it was just giving, like I was saying with that first student, giving her something she didn't know existed, right? And I've seen more growth sometimes in the parents of the students too, because the parents of the students are seeing their kid transform, And then eventually they end up playing music too. And I'm like, yes, I got them all. You know, in a really
yes, come in.
Yeah, because you know, even if they don't like it, and at least they tried it, you know. But I don't know, building. You just got to do it. You know what I mean? Like if you have an idea, you just have to try it. So if you're building a band, or if you're like scared to join a band, or you want anything that is to do with community or music or anything like that, you just have to put yourself out there, you know? And that's what I did to build the school. Is I was just like, well, I'm going to just keep teaching and then find people that want to teach and then merge them together. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, and really the thing is, if you're focused and you're doing something with full force and you know it's right and you have the immense passion, you don't need to promote. You know what I mean? Like people will notice that, and if they don't, it's not for them. And if they do and they're attracted to it, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I'd love to, you know, hang out or learn or do this. And it's at that point, it's so easy because we all just feed each other, you know, like energetically and spiritually and in all the ways.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's like sort of, and these can be like personal challenges or just like challenges in general, but what sort of challenges have you come across with, like playing live music or honestly running this business or just anything like that, where you're doing something like creative? What kind of like struggles or challenges have you kind of come across in that realm?
Man, probably quite a lot. I'm such a silver lining, look at the good person.
That's awesome.
That right now I'm like, I know there's been hard times. Yeah. I know, like I can tell you right now how many times I've cried this year because of being overwhelmed or stressed or, you know. I think like a lot of it is any issues that I think I've had, if it comes to especially playing in a band and staying communicative, it always gets solved by communication. So even like right now, I can't really think of one specific thing that's been difficult, but I always know that whatever's been difficult is solved by communication, right? So like if it's in a band thing where there's something unsaid, or there's like a money thing or scheduling thing, or people are frustrated, or even just like musically you're blocked, it's like, just let's talk about it.
Exactly.
So I can tell you the solution to a lot of my problems is communication and being upfront and like not leaving things unsaid, you know? And when it comes to like the business, it's really like valuing yourself and I don't know, I think early on I struggled with, I think overall it was a hard time in the beginning couple years of balancing again that like money versus passion, because if the world was different, I would do everything for free. Yeah, I would do all of this for free because it's just like, it's a win-win-win-win. Like if everybody's winning, it's like, can we just leave money out? Yeah, exactly. But, you know, we got to play the game in the world we live in, and you have to value yourself. And I think I'm at the point now where I can sit down and see what I feel like I'm valued, how I'm valued, and the other teachers I have here and making sure they are as well. And so, yeah, I think the only challenges I've had is really just making sure everyone's on the same page and respecting each other, and that's always solved by communication. So.
I feel like a lot of like artists and like creative people kind of struggle with that whole like valuing their passion, because it's like you like want to just do it, and it's like you don't really like, I don't know, I feel like there's such a like money is such like a loaded topic, and it's like if you think that you're like charging too much, then you start to like get self-conscious. If you're
but then charging you lower too little, it, and then people are like, "What?"
And they're like, "Yeah, exactly." And they're like, "I was totally fine paying that." Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
And it was all in your head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You like end up talking yourself out of like doing something that like is good. But
that did happen the other day where a really good friend of mine asked about the cost of something, and she's like a good friend of mine, right? And I told her the cost, and I'm like, "But I'd do it for this." She goes, "Radha, I was just asking the cost." And I'm like, "Okay, sorry." I'm like going through all this in my head. I'm still doing this, you know? And at the end of the day, like the people you love will they'll see it, and if they can't afford it, they're going to ask. And that's the big thing, too. Like, if someone can't come to a show, and they just say, Radha, I'd love to come to your show, but I can't. Exactly. I don't see that as a bad thing.
Exactly.
It's like, dude, it's just money.
Exactly.
Come on in.
Exactly. I feel like so much of it is, like, just, like, learning, like, not to take things personally. And then I feel like that even also goes back to communication, honestly, because like I feel like, at least for me, I've had so many times where I've like brain spiraled myself into a situation that doesn't even exist. And then like when I finally like bring it up to somebody, they're like, what like,
are you talking about?
Yeah, like, what are you talking about? Like, this, what? Like, I never felt that way.
And then you're like, am I delusional?
And then you're just like, okay, hang on. Yeah. Wait a second.
You got to catch that early, too.
But, yeah,
the spirals,
exactly. And it's like, it's just like learning your, like the starting point pretty much of those brain spirals. Like once you start like realizing, okay, like this is where my thought's going. Yeah. Nope. Like bring it right back, like back to reality. But yeah, so speaking of that, do you like ever experience, so I know you like play music, do you ever experience like stage fright or like performance anxiety or anything like that? Or is it more just like you're like focused on the music and all of that kind
That's
of
a good question.
flies out the window?
I think both, depending on the situation. I find myself, it's like sometimes when we do, it's funny actually, when we do like student showcases and I'm playing with the student, I think I get more nervous than I do when I play like out in Austin in front of hundreds of people. And I think the reason is, I don't know, it could go both ways too, but I think the reason is like, I can't mess up for this kid. You know, like the pressure is
like you're the
I'm
teacher
doing it for someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm the teacher, right? And
Exactly.
but also like, you know, if I make a mistake, it's good to show that too. But I don't want to be the reason why, like, make sure you practice all the time, you know, and then I'm the one that messes it up.
Exactly.
So, but I have to really watch myself, because if I start feeling that, you know, obviously we all know this. You start feeling it, you go through it in your head, and then you definitely mess up.
Yep.
Right? But then on the flip side, like when we're playing live shows, and if you really like dig into what I'm about to say, it's a very big psychological thing we all struggle with. But when I'm playing a show and it's for me or it's for the band, right? I often don't stress as much, probably because I'm comfortable and like I know the parts, and like I've practiced way more for that than I have for student shows where I'm just like scrambling for songs. But I don't know. Me talking about it is making me think I try harder and get more nervous if I'm doing it for someone else. But if I'm doing it for myself, right? Like that's kind of what I'm like digging at now. I'm like, oh man, that's probably not good. So, but you know, for going back to just like overall stage fright, I do get it, but I've gotten really good at slapping it and smashing it and being like, nope, not today. Because this is fun. And like, it's your job to go on that stage, no matter how many people are watching, and give them something and inspire them in some way. And if you're shaky, all they're going to be like, oh man, poor girl.
Yeah.
You know, because they can tell that.
Exactly.
So you have to actually perform. You have to be a performer.
Exactly.
And almost act, right? Don't act nervous. Look out and figure out things to make you not nervous. Like look out at someone and make a face. And then it'll make you giggle. Yeah. Or look at your drummer and stick your tongue out. Because you're just like, hey, remember we're doing this for fun? Yeah. Don't forget it.
100%. Yeah. I remember, like, I forget who I was talking to about stage fright, but they said something really, like, smart that I feel like has stuck with me. And it's like, people don't go to see you, like, mess up. Like, they go to see you, like, have fun. And if you do mess up, then, like, have fun with it.
Yeah.
Like,
you better not be beating yourself off the stage.
Exactly. Like, don't beat yourself up. Like, I feel like in so many things, too, it's like, if you make a mistake, like, you learn from it and you move on. And that's, like, not just in music. That's, like, everything, pretty much.
And do it quickly, please.
And do it quickly. Yeah, like, get it over with. Like, it's all good. Just keep going.
Yeah.
So, what kind of, do you have any, like, artists or musicians who, like, just super inspire you? And it's, like, every time you, like, either go see them or, like, listen to their music or whichever, like, medium they're in, you're just like, yes, like, this is why I want to do this.
Yeah. Oh, that's a hard question. But the first person
I'm sure there's a lot.
There is a lot. And there's a different categories of that. You know, like, I could tell you someone that inspires me that's, like, a bass player, but doesn't inspire me as a person, right? So that's a different thing. But I would say, like, if I picked one person that I think captures the essence of what I feel about music and how I want to be is Jacob Collier.
Nice.
Because I think that he is like a very pure soul, you know, that is cleanly letting music flow through him and not blocking that, you know, and we all do things to block it, whether we think we are or not. And we have to work on getting a clear flow so that whatever it is, if you're a painter, like it's you're the vessel of, you know, I don't mean to sound too crazy here, but
no,
you are the vessel of letting something come through you. So keep that channel clean. And I think that in that sense, he is the guy where I'm always like, whoa. And I don't really like listen to his music much. I don't go, oh, it's a Jacob Collier day. Because some of his music's a lot to listen to. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, whoa.
Exactly.
I need to put my head on straight for this. It's kind of like Hiatus Coyote too.
Yeah.
Like it's a badass, but you have to be focused on it. It's not just like grooving background
tunes. Like, put it on and like vibe to it. Yeah.
I also really love musically Yusuf Days, the drummer.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
He's coming here in December. So, man, there's a lot of people that inspire me. And I think it's important to have people that inspire you in different ways because there's no one perfect human, right? So if there's any one perfect human, I guess it's Jacob Collier.
I feel like that makes so much sense, though. Yeah. Like, I feel like he really does just kind of like, the way you said that, like, he just, like, lets, like, the music just completely come through.
Yeah.
And, like, the thing that's so cool is that he really just, like, I feel like he, like, embodies, like, music as communication.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So it's, like, whatever feeling, like, I was watching this video with him where he's going through and just, like, playing piano, just playing piano, hanging out, like, whatever. And he's like, okay, I'm going to do, like, a happy emotion. I'm going to do jealousy. I'm gonna do like all of these different emotions, and some of them are like really complicated, like complex emotions, but then he like plays what the emotion is,
like
and it sounds like the emotion, and I'm like, wait, what? And I feel like you can only do that if you're not like blocking. And I mean, of course, you have to know like some level of music theory.
Oh, of course.
But really, like, even if you know all the music theory in the world, you can still just end up blocking that from coming through just with your own, like, thoughts or, like, your subconscious, you know, like, beliefs or anything like that. And it's, like, always fear. Fear is such a big one.
Oh, my God. That's the big one for me that blocks me.
Yeah.
Fear like, of what? Messing
exactly.
up? Sucking?
Of messing up, I guess. Like, it's
but
like,
what is messing up?
But what is messing up? Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, you just, and I feel like fear, it's like when you actually, like, physically feel it, it's like you tense up, like, so much. And if that's not blocking things, I don't know what is, really.
Gosh, it would be cool to have Jacob Collier do those, like maybe make a longer piece of each emotion and then like merge that with someone's art.
Right.
You know, and then just be like a full sensory overload of that emotion.
Yeah.
Might help people process things, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Another thing he does that I love is he doesn't wear shoes on stage. He is just like, you know, here I am, you know?
Dude, I love his like fashion sense, honestly. Yeah. Like, it's so great.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, and then, so, kind of switching gears a little bit, but, like, what would you tell somebody who is, like, super eager to start their own business, but they don't know where to start, and maybe they're even, like, passionate about, like, some, like, creative things, where it's, like, there might be that kind of, like, I can't think of a better word than, like, restriction kind of, like, around money.
Yeah.
Or maybe they like a bunch of different things and they like want to start a business, but then they're just like, I don't know which way to go with this.
Yep.
Like that kind
too.
of thing. Yeah. So what would you like tell somebody like that?
Well, I would say first, always like don't ever make decisions immediately, right? And I think that our hearts should lead us, but you should be careful because I think, you know, especially in the art world, right? I think that we are passionate so much about something that it's like, how could it not work, right? I just got to start my business and I just got to start doing it. And that's great. And you should do that. But pause and really think about the money because a business is about money. And you can't, like, especially if you're a musician, I think a lot of people don't really see it that way. And the result of that is they end up playing gigs and being like, oh, wait, I got paid $30. And if they're fine with that, that's fine. Okay. But if they're expecting something different, then you need to figure out your life and you need to actually sit down and think about what you're trying to do. So my biggest thing is like slow down and make, you know, how much things would cost if you're, you know, getting supplies, or figure out how much you're going to sell things for, whether it's yourself or your skills or whatever, and make sure that you stick to that. Because, you know, going back to valuing yourself, like you actually will be taken advantage of. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, right? So like a good friend of yours could be like, oh, you do this for me for free all the time. That's beautiful. And if that's your decision, that's fine. But if that's your business, then all of a sudden people are going to get word that you just do things for free. And you know, again, it's beautiful. You give from your heart, but you have to be really careful about that. So really plan things and like get things set up properly. You know, think of the legality of it. Think about the taxes. Think about, you know, all those things. Don't just let your passion and heart lead you. Use your brain at the same time so that it's, you know, it's quality. And then that way you're going to stick to it long term. And it's not just, I know sometimes I'm like, oh, I love to do this and I love to do this and I want to do that. And luckily right now I'm in a place where like I already have a business and I can like explore different things within it or within music. But, you know, like for example, the studio we're sitting in, like that was a decision that was made based on my heart. And it didn't actually make financial sense to invest so much in this studio. But I really did sit down with it and I was like, I know it doesn't actually make sense, but I do have a plan down the road as it gets bigger. And right now it's helping people. So I think that's going to pay off. So you have to take risks. You have to take risks too, you know? And, man, just don't stop. You know, if you know you want to do it, please don't get halfway into it and be like, oh, it's hard, because I cannot tell you how many times I've cried and had like mental breakdowns, but I've never had mental breakdowns and been like, I want to quit. It's more just like, oh my God, this is really difficult and it's going to make me stronger. And I know that, but yeah, cry it out, man.
Seriously.
Feel the pain.
A good cry is worth like $1 million.
Yep. It's really blood, sweat, and tears, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe less blood, but like, I don't know.
Hopefully not too much blood.
Yeah. But I think people see, like, I don't know, the reaction that most people get when they talk to me about my school that I'm grateful for is they're just like, I'm just so happy you can do what you love, Radha. And that's so inspiring. And the arrow is like, I wish I could do that. It's like, well, you can. If you have something you want to do, that's fine. And I think there's all sorts of different people. There's people that start businesses, there's the people that work for businesses. We need both. So it's good that way. Yeah. So just freaking do it.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many things where it's just like the simple answer is just do it.
Yeah.
Like,
and also make sure it's a win-win-win.
Exactly.
Right? Like if you're serving someone and it's helping people and it's helping the world and there's nothing that's coming of it that is going to hurt people in any way, shape, or form, then put a price on that and then do it. But, you know, if it's not financially makes sense, then just keep it as a hobby. You know, be smart.
And that's like, I feel like bringing that up was super important too, because I feel like especially now everyone's kind of after like the quick dollar. And I feel like a lot of people either don't realize like what they're doing in the process of getting that quick dollar, or they do, but they don't care because they're getting money from it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's so important for like people to realize too, is that you can build a successful business and be helping people and not like hurting them.
Ideally, it should be that way. The whole world should be that way.
Exactly.
Like if you break it down to like, well, you have a farmer and then you sell food to this person, and like if you break it down to how it was, and I know there was definitely struggles then too. Yeah. But it's just gotten so complicated these days with like all the different jobs you can have and how horrible some of them are for everybody's souls.
I feel like humans are just very good at complicating things in general.
Yeah. Are we really the higher species? I question this often.
I doubt it.
I'm like, the animals know when tsunamis are coming and we don't.
And so we're just like, let's go take a picture.
Yeah. It's sad.
So kind of staying in the business realm for a second. So how do you go about like, if you have like a tough decision to make, because I'm sure there's so many of them, especially like with owning your own business and everything, how do you go about like the decision-making process and kind of like what do you think, I guess, people should be, you kind of already talked about what they should be aware of. But like, yeah, how do you go about the decision?
Yeah, decisions are hard.
They really are.
And sometimes I'm grateful for the times where it just like comes to me and I'm like, oh, that's the obvious right answer. Mm-hmm. You know, that does happen sometimes if it's very obvious and everybody is I guess my thing is when I make decisions that are especially difficult, mm-hmm. like in the past when I've had to fire someone or mm-hmm. think about where someone should be or what I should do and all that, I think making sure that it's for the benefit of all people, even though it doesn't seem that way. So like you could see firing someone as being negative, but I don't think it is, mm-hmm. you know? And I tell every single teacher here when they first start here and also other staff, mm-hmm. when they first start here and like every few months I kind of like casually say it at meetings. It's mm-hmm. like, if you drive here and you are dreading it, mm-hmm. you need to tell me that because that really does affect things, you know? Mm-hmm. So I guess I try to avoid hard decisions by doing maintenance, you know, and preventing big things from happening, which you can't do that all the time. You know, we have very little control whether we think we do or not. But what I can control is making sure people are always checking in with themselves to make sure they know where they need to be, mm-hmm. you know, and sometimes that's even hard for me. I'm like, where am I supposed to be putting my time right now? Mm-hmm. I don't know that right now. I have a lot of different avenues, but, mm-hmm. And that's another decision, mm-hmm. right? Figuring out what to do with your time and how much of it should go towards something to do with money versus mm-hmm. something to do with your heart, and ideally those align. But yeah, I think my biggest thing when I make decisions is just figuring out what's best for everybody involved. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it doesn't always end up that way, but you know, it's hard to do. It's hard to do, but it's your perspective too. Uh-huh. Like when you were saying during 2020 when you got mm-hmm. laid off, I'm assuming you're grateful, mm-hmm. right? Now. No, I know in the moment. Right, yeah. Right. But I don't know what it was, but like maybe it wasn't where you were supposed to be.
Exactly. And I ended up here. So
exactly. So yeah.
It works.
Yeah, it's all perspective. It's mm-hmm. like if something bad happens, I'm always, and I learned this from my dad a lot. It's like mm-hmm. if something bad happens, don't like bury the pain mm-hmm. of something that's happening, but try to just like see the bright side and be like, well, dude, I grew from that mm-hmm. and that was really horrible, but you know what? Life moves on. Mm-hmm. It really does. And I'm going to move on with it and I'm not going to be held back by all that. So
I feel like you almost never grow from like, I mean, positive experiences are great. Like, don't get me wrong. I want as many of them as possible.
But you're not challenged.
And it's not something that is going to help you like grow as a person. Yeah. Like, it's awesome. And yay, but but it's not going to like actually cause any growth. Yeah. Because you're comfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like honestly too with just like when you were mentioning like if you're coming to work and you're like dreading driving in, like and like you want to know that, I feel like it makes so much sense because it's like if you're not enjoying what you do, at least on some level, you're not going to put out like the best quality work.
Yeah.
You're just not going to be happy, which like nobody wants.
And nobody else will be.
Yeah, nobody else will be. It's like you work so much better with other people when you're like enjoying what you're doing. And of course you don't like you were saying, like you have like people who run businesses and you have people that work at businesses and you need both. And I feel like if you're someone that works at a business, it's like you still want to enjoy it on some level. Yeah. Like I don't know. You don't have to be super, super passionate about it, but it's kind of awesome if you just don't hate your job.
Yeah. And again, if it's not something that's like you said, you're not super passionate about it, there's mm-hmm. still good things if you're doing the right thing.
Exactly.
You have to make sure it's helping people.
Exactly. Yeah.
In some way, even if it's like you can't quite tell how.
Exactly. like
customer service sometimes.
But exactly. like okay, I'm just sitting here like getting yelled at, but I feel like I'm helping.
Oh gosh. I don't know, maybe if you're getting yelled at a lot, you should assess.
But the funniest thing is like I worked in like customer service-ish jobs for like so long, and the funniest thing is usually I found that if I just sit there and like of course if somebody's like cussing at me and being like super like aggressive, then I'm not gonna do it. But a lot of times people just want to like vent.
Yeah.
And then once they're done venting, then you're able to help them way easier. Because they're just like, they got it all out.
Yeah. And it's often not about you.
Exactly. Yeah. It really isn't.
And if you have I think if you have like if I go to HEB and I'm checking out and they're like, hi, how are you doing today? Oh my gosh, you're having a great day. Yeah. And they're all like that. Not everyone's like that every day, but it does say a lot.
It does.
And I say all the time to my students, it's like, never matters what you're doing. Like, if I was the manager of Taco Bell, I would crush it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I would, like, bring stickers in and, like, make people, you really need to, like, okay, this is the thing I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm going to do it the best of my ability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Put out quality, people. Or at least try your best.
Exactly. at least attempt. Yeah. So, starting to kind of wind down a little bit, but, just how do you, this is usually something that I ask, like, pretty much everyone, just because I feel like everyone's, like, balancing, like, a bunch of different projects and everything. So how do you balance, like, your time with everything going on within the business? Because I feel like that has, like, all of its own little, like, like, areas. Nooks and crannies, yeah. And, like, playing music. And then, of course, like, with all the normal, just daily life stuff, too. Yeah. So how do you balance everything?
I knew this question was going to happen.
This is, like, the question.
Yeah, and it's, like, poking me right where it's, like, the most difficult in life. I mean, I think that, like, most people do struggle with that.
A lot of people do, and that's honestly why I ask every single person, because everyone has, like, a different way of approaching it. Yeah. And I feel like it's good to, like, hear how, like, different people approach that, because everyone has to do that in their lives, whether it's, like, 10 projects or, like, 2 main ones, or even just, like, normal life.
Yeah. And normal life is a lot, too.
It is. It really is. And, like, I feel like that gets kind of, like, swept under the rug a little bit sometimes, because it's like, oh, well, I'm doing, like, all of these projects, and it's like, okay, but, like, what else? Like, you're also living. Like, you need to, like,
are you eating well?
Are you, like, eating? Like, at all? At all?
Oh, that's a question I need to ask myself, too.
I know. Dude, it's what I ask myself every single day, and I still don't know.
But we do feel so much better when we eat. Like, oh, man. When I really make an effort, I'm like, wow, thank you so much, my past self, for doing that. Yeah. Okay, so for balance, it's a constant struggle, but it's a beautiful struggle because it changes for me. And, I think consistency, something can be said for that, like making sure that every day before you look at your phone, you breathe or you do something that's for you, which I'm not always great at because every day is different. My personality is very much, I guess, I don't know if you could say I'm ADHD. That word gets thrown around a lot. I've been recently told I definitely am, and then as I've looked into it, I'm like, oh boy, I've just never known that. But I'm not going to do anything different. I'm not going to take anything because I've learned how to manage it. But
exactly.
Boy, do I go over here, and then I go over here, and I go over here, and at the end of the day, I do like a little bit of each thing, and then I come back and I finish it. But it does create chaos in my life, right? So I have to be super intentional of being like, okay, no one talk to me. I'm going to do just this one thing. But I also go through phases. So I'll go through phases where balance to me is not going out, making sure you're spending all my time in the business, which does mean like 14 to 16 hours a day. But I love it. And the beautiful thing is, a lot of my passions and hobbies are combined. So it helps, I do spend 90 to 95% of my time here, which just leaves, I would say 90, which just leaves 10% for outside music. And I'm only in really one project, and then I do jam sessions. Like, I love just jamming because there's no commitment. I'm like, I can leave after and no one's expecting anything of me. And that's really like where I get all my, like, how I get everything out. And, I'll jam and improvise by myself too, but really I like jamming with people. But 10% of my life is really just like the social and music part of my life, but I know everything's going to change. Like when I first started this school, I was 18 when I started it, and I had nothing else but this vision, right? And so I was just in it all the time, and I was playing in bands, but I was 18, so it's like I could only play at certain venues, and I was very just fully focused on starting this whole thing. And so my life looked so different back then. And then as I joined bands, I was like, my maybe balance for me is now putting a little less time into the school and more time into actually like benefiting myself as a musician and meeting people. And that's, done beautiful things for my business, right? Like bringing in the Austin community into the school and merging all that. So the balance and like setting aside time has actually like served me in more ways than I can probably imagine. And the one thing that I lack with is just like family and social life, you know, but I really at this moment in my life don't feel bad about that because I am so grateful for all the people around me. And my social life is my students and is my friends who are the teachers here, who are the people I play music with. And so it's good to have something that's combined. But I guess what I'll say to close that whole balancing topic out is, you know, again, I'm all over the place and I have to embrace that because I know sometimes I really know what I need. So sometimes I'll work like crazy hours all week. And then my dad will be like, just come over and sleep early. And I'm like, you don't understand. I have to go to a show. I really do. And I know it sounds crazy and that I'm not going to get sleep. But that is actually what I need. I do not need sleep right now. I need to like go and dance it out at a show. Because I work so much. And he's just like, well, are you going to sleep? And that's a whole nother thing, right? And so like right now in this very moment, I'm in a kind of a more resting phase where I'm working a lot and then I'm resting and I'm barely going out. So balance is, I think, about checking in with yourself and seeing what you need and not settling for like, oh, well, everyone says that I need to do a yoga in the morning. It's like, well, maybe you don't.
Exactly.
Maybe do it later. Or, I don't know.
I feel like all of our like body clocks are like different. And even then it's like they're always changing throughout the year anyway.
Yeah.
So, so kind of to close up, do you want to talk about like some successes that you've had either recently or just like really memorable ones? Yeah. Either with like students or like with the band or things like that.
Yeah. Okay. I would say like the most recent success, probably not like the biggest one, but the one that has really made me internally proud that I really haven't really talked about at all. So I'm glad you asked is, I am an aspiring audio engineer. I have this production space within the school. And that's another thing I'm really proud of is between running everything and teaching full time and doing all the things, like I've been really trying to put as much time as possible into building the studio. It's still not done. It'll never be done. But my passion right now has been like getting better at being an audio engineer because I think it's fascinating and I love being the producer and being the behind the scenes support system because musicians need it and they can't actually survive without all the people supporting them and running sound and cameras and lights and all that stuff. And so I guess one of my successes that I'm so excited and it's going to be more of a success is just making sure the studio works. And really the purpose of it is to give everybody, even children and teenagers, access to really high quality equipment and classes where they can learn things that they didn't even know existed, like audio engineering. Like one of my best audio engineers right now on my production crew is 9. He is 9 years old. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
And he's also like one of my best camera guys. He's always like, I figured this new thing out with your gimbal. And I'm like, I didn't even know that did that.
Yeah.
You know, awesome. So he didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't know. His parents didn't know. So I guess I'm super proud that I felt that was needed in the world and I did it even though it didn't make sense, right? The Radha School of Music made sense because there was profit and lessons and money. And Indigo Studios is like just starting out, right? Yeah. And we're teaching people, but really it's for everybody. I want the whole community to be able to just like come in here and use the space because we need nice space, you know? But anyways, my most recent success is I ran sound and provided the backline and all the whole thing for a full day festival in Cedar Park.
Nice.
Yeah. And, you know, started at 6 a.m., set up a whole stage and I had help and I have people that like whisper in my ear and when I'm like, I don't know how to do this. But I love those moments. Yeah. You know, I'm like,
it's good team building.
Yeah. But it also allows other people to teach. Like I so look for people to teach me and I want people to tell me things I'm doing wrong or things that I could do better. I hope that I never have ego in that because I want to be better at everything, right? Like, that's my main issue. I want to be better at everything. But for this one event, we had, like, I think there was 8 bands total. And they were just, like, bands from all over. And it was really just, like, you know, 15-minute changeover, next band, sound check, go. You know, we had a rainstorm and it got all the equipment almost soaked. And it was, like, a whole thing. But I have never done that before. And I was pretty like nervous about it because you never know what's going to happen. And I was pretty much by myself, just with people to call. And it went off really well. Nice. And I'm excited. Like, it just fuels you to be like, I did that. Oh my God.
So awesome.
We can do another thing.
That's so awesome.
And then when we do another thing, we can teach someone else. And then I can,
It's just like a constantly growing, like, bubble of knowledge, pretty much. I was like trying to do this. I was like, bubble, cloud, I don't know, one of those words.
And then I think my last success would be just seeing my students. Like right now I have a bunch of students who I started teaching when they were 5, and they stuck with me. And in all the ebbs and flows of joining bands and doing musical theater and like doing whatever I threw them into. And like one of them is gonna go far. He's 13. He has 3 original songs he recorded here. He has his own band he's training of students of mine. He is like on fire. And I just have a bunch of other students like that who fell in love with music and they get it. Nice. And, they get to come here and we get to jam and they're like my favorite people.
That's so awesome.
So just like pulling that out of people is the biggest success I think I've had. And
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So where can people go to like find out more about your school or bands you're playing with, things like that?
Yeah, so my school is Radha School of Music, RADHA, and you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I cannot get into TikTok. I just like refuse to download the app. Everyone's like, you could be so big on TikTok. I'm like, I just don't have the time. And I'm like a whole other thing. And I try to focus my time in like in-person stuff versus like content. And then if we happen to show what we're doing, that's great. And I'm trying to teach the kids that. I don't want to teach them that like everything's about TikTok. Anyways, so that's Radha School of Music. And then Indigo Studios on YouTube. We're going to have a bunch of really cool series coming out. Nice. So starting in the new year, we're going to have these... we're going to invite local musicians to come and record here a live set with a live audience of our students. And they're going to talk about like songwriting and improvisation, and maybe the students can jam with them and interview them about how they got started in music and just really like spread that knowledge around. So we're going to have a lot of different series coming out and tons of like opportunities for adults and kids and teens of anyone. So if anyone has any goals to do with music or production or creativity, and you feel like I can help point you to the right people, like I feel like I'm good at connecting people and figuring out what people might need. That's what we do at Radha School Music and Indigo Studios. And Indigo Studios is the newest project. So those 2 things. And I also play bass in Pearl Z, and we play some fun shows. So that's where you can catch me.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As always, you can find me at creatingwithimpact.com or on Instagram at creatingwithimpactpod. You can also check out Creating with Impact on Patreon at patreon.com/creatingwithimpact, where you can become a subscriber and get all sorts of extra content and resources. 10% of all of our Patreon proceeds benefit Mental Health America, which advances the mental health and well-being of all people living in the U.S. through public education, research, advocacy, and public policy, and direct service. Leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to this podcast or join our Patreon, and we'll give you a personal shout out on the show. As always, if you have any stories or successes you'd like to share, or if you'd just like to get in on the conversation, you can email creatingwithimpactpod@gmail.com.